Hi, Boldly Panama. I'm Liz Larroquette, and we're interviewing today Yolani Alvarado. She's a well-known Panamanian lawyer who specialises in advising on legal issues to individuals who wish to do business, invest, or live in Panama. A graduate of the St. Mary's University, a private university in Panama, she was granted the right to practice law in 1998. Thank you so much, Yolani, for being with us.
Liz, it's my pleasure.
It's great to see you. It's been a while. So we'll get started. So I just wanted to know, how long have you been working with expats in Panama? And how have you seen the legal process changing over the years?
Well, we've been working with expats since 2008. So that's a little bit of a while. And the process have changed in a positive way, if you ask me, from my legal standpoint of view, and also from the comments from our clients, from our expats. They have considered that the process have become friendlier and more expedite with time. Actually, one of the programs that is in place today for expats is called Friendly Nations Program, because it's a very friendly program. It's very fast and it's easy to go through the process with the right advice.
Okay, and the Friendly Nations visa, I hear that it's available for many different nationalities. What are some of those nationalities?
Sure. 48 countries are included in the program of the Friendly Nations visa. So it's among those countries, we have the United States, we have Canada, we have the United Kingdom, we have South Africa, Israel. We have certain countries from South America, like Argentina, Uruguay. The government has included Mexico from North America,
yeah.
And several countries from Europe. For example, we have a special program for Italians, which is not exactly the Friendly Nations program. It's a little bit different, but it's also very fast. It's a fast track type of scheme that is used for Italians to get residency in Panama. Fantastic. So those are some of the countries. We have a list of 48 countries that we can easily send you. So anyone who is interested in finding out if with their passport they can get this fast track scheme program, we can easily help them with that.
And if they're a part of those 48 countries, what sort of documentation do people need to be able to get that Friendly Nations visa?
Fantastic. What excites me the most about this program is that it's very easy. So there are 3 main criteria that need to be fulfilled in order to get and be able to file for this Friendly Nations program. First important point is that you need to have a passport and a second ID from the country from which you claim to be a national. For example, among the 48 countries, you need to prove that you have a passport from one of those 48 countries and a second ID, say a driver's license from that country or a social security carnet from that country. That's very easy to fulfill because anyone can get their passports from their home country.
Okay.
The second thing is that they need to prove some sort of investment in Panama. But what is marvelous about this program is that there is not a minimum amount of investment in order for you to file for this residency program. So you can invest in something as simple as a small title property, or something as simple as a corporation that will be the owner of an asset in the future. So you don't need to prove that you have already made the real estate investment. You can prove that you have set up the legal structure to invest in real estate in the coming future. And the third, very easy to do requirement that the third requirement is to open a bank account in Panama with one of the local banks in Panama. How much do you need to put into that account in order for the government to consider it some sort of good investment? $5,000 only.
Okay.
And that's $5,000 per main applicant. If you're bringing your family, you will only need to add $2,000 to those $5,000 for every additional dependent that you might want to bring. So the next question would be, okay, who can be considered my dependent? The government allows you to bring into your application your spouse and your kids that are under 18 years old. Okay. If you have children that are between 18 years old and 25 years old, they can also be included in your application as long as they prove that they are studying a career in Panama, in a Panama university, and they are completely considered students, which means that they are not working in Panama. And even more, the program allows you to include in your application the applicant's parents, as long as they make a statement indicating that they are completely dependent on the main applicant. So as you may see, not only can you file the application as a holder of a passport from one of these 48 countries, but also your family can be included.
That's excellent. So in summary, for this Friendly Nations visa, you need to have a passport from the country that's on that list of 48 countries. You need to have another ID, and you need to set up a Panamanian corporation. As well as setting up a Panamanian corporation, you set up a bank account in Panama, and you have $5,000 in the account plus $2,000 per extra person in the family.
Correct. And it's also very important, Liz, that the people that are hearing today understands that these $5,000 belong to the applicant. They are not seized or used by the Panamanian government at all. At the same day in which you get your residency granted, you can take out your $5,000.
Okay, fantastic. And what would the fees be? I'm being asked all the time, how much does it cost to get this Friendly Nations visa in Panama? So with your company, how much are the fees?
Sure. We help our clients. We start from $3,000 and up. That is going to depend on the amount of dependents that are going to be included in the application. Setting up the corporation starts from $1,500, and opening the bank account starts from $5,000 and $1,500 as well.
Okay. So it's around $3,000, starts at around $3,000.
It starts around $3,000, correct.
And with the Friendly Nations visa, it's true that people can then become citizens and get their passport, right?
That is correct. After you get your residency granted, the residency is granted immediately and permanently. 5 years after you get your residency, you can file for a Panamanian passport.
Fantastic. Okay. Now the other visa so that's the Friendly Nations visa. The other visa that my clients are telling me about all the time is this pensionado visa, which is the retirement visa. Now, is that retirement visa applicable to anyone in the world, even if they're not in that list of 48 countries for the Friendly Nations visa?
Correct. The retirement visa is applicable to anyone that can prove the Panamanian government that they are retired and that they receive their pension. The pension is a lifetime pension, and it's of a minimum of $1,000 per month, okay. US dollars.
Okay, got it. And what's required for that visa, apart from proving that they're getting $1,000 a month from their pension fund?
They must present a statement from the government that has pensioned them, indicating that they have that status, okay. Or a statement from the government that has pensioned them out of a certain condition. For example, age, and this is important, age is not a matter of, it's not a criteria for the Panamanian government to consider someone that is pensioned or not. You can have a pensionado visa if you prove the Panamanian government that your own government provides you a pension out of, for example, a sickness. Someone that is young but is sick and is not able to work. If their home country pensions them and provides them with money that is going to be given for a lifetime, and it's a minimum of $1,000 US dollars per month, that person can show the Panamanian government their condition of pensionado,
Okay.
even though he or she is a young person.
Got it. Got it. Okay. But the main thing with that visa is that people can't get citizenship. Isn't that right? They can get permanent residency for life, but not citizenship.
Eventually, after they get the residency, they will get a Panamanian ID. And after the Panamanian ID, they 5 years would need to go on living in Panama in order for them to file for a passport.
Oh, okay. That's great news. Okay. And then the third visa that I hear about a lot is the investor visa, which applies to people that aren't applicable for the Friendly Nations visa because they're not on that list of 48 countries. They're also not getting a pension. They're not retired, and they need to invest a certain amount of money into real estate in Panama. What's that dollar amount?
It's a minimum of $350,000 per applicant, and an additional $5,000 for each dependent that is going to be included in the application. And basically what's required here is that the applicant shows title of property.
Okay.
Now, the title of property can be issued into the personal name of the applicant or through an asset protection structure, let's say a corporation or a private interest foundation. So that's the main criteria that the government requires. In addition, it's mandatory that the applicant shows that the money has come from abroad, which means that the money for buying the property must come through an international wire transference into Panama in order for the government to consider that there has been an actual investment from money brought from above into Panama.
Got it. My other question is, I know a lot of people like to purchase real estate down here, like a second home. They don't want to spend over, say, 250,000, 200,000, but they don't apply for those other two visas, but they want to get the investor visa. So what can they do? They buy a property for 200,000. Can they still apply for that that visa, that investor visa, if it's 350,000 that's required?
Nowadays it's 350,000. So that's the minimum amount to be invested in real estate. Okay, so they can show the government that they have bought real estate. They don't need to live in Panama. They don't need to move to Panama in order to get that residency program. They just need to show the investment. Now, it's important that our clients understand that no mortgage can be granted on the first $350,000. If the property is $500,000, for example, you can get a mortgage on the $200,000 in addition, but not on the first 350.
Okay. So if the property costs 200,000, they can put another 150,000 in a bank account here and it be frozen. Is that correct? Until the residency is granted?
That is correct. If the property is lower than the amount required by the government, then you can complete the amount of investment through a bank through a fixed deposit in one of the banks of Panama. It doesn't have to be a national bank of Panama. It has to be a bank that has a general license. And again, that amount of money is to be in a fixed deposit with no lien on it, which means that you cannot request a loan backed up with that fixed deposit. There must be no lien on the fixed deposit. And the amount of time would be 3 years only.
Okay, got it. So after 3 years, the funds can be taken out.
Absolutely.
Is that correct?
Absolutely. Plus, you gain interest because the bank will pay you interest on your fixed deposit.
Got it. Okay, sounds great. So another thing to ask you is, like, Panama is known for being business friendly. What laws and provisions are the best or the most important that you can see for expats?
Well, one of the main legal provisions that have been issued is the program, the Friendly Nations program. Yeah. Now, with all of this pandemic going on, a couple of weeks ago, the director of the Immigration Service of Panama indicated that they will flexibilize and make it easier for investors that are not included in the Friendly Nations program to deal with the process of getting their residency through investments. So that is something that we're looking forward. It's been said already through the media. We're waiting for the law to be actually issued and find out how we can help our clients become residents easier, even if they are not members of them, even if they don't belong to one of the countries from the Friendly Nations program.
Right.
There's another very popular situation about Panama, and it's the tax situation. So in Panama, if you do not generate income within the country, then you are not subject of paying taxes, income taxes, okay? So if you, for example, are a retiree that just purchased an asset and live in Panama, but you just don't work and you just don't generate income in Panama, then you don't have to pay income tax in Panama every year. You will just need to pay the property tax, which is very low in Panama. It's as low as 2%. And you can pay it in 3 different stages, 3 different dates in Panama. So it's quite flexible and it's quite easy for expats and people from all over the world to come over to Panama and live freely and a little bit less stressed on the fact that they need to pay taxes.
Yeah, so there's no double taxation in Panama. So
there are agreements with certain countries to avoid double taxation. However, the main premise here is that if you do not do business in Panama, within the territory of Panama, then even if you're not an expat, even if you're just a Panamanian or someone visiting, if you're not doing business in Panama and you're not issuing an invoice, then you're not subject to income tax. If you just have, for example, a bank account, that bank account, the interest from that bank account are not subject of taxation because that is not a business that you are running within Panama. Now, if you decide to open a beauty parlor or you decide to open a shop, then you will be doing business in Panama. And of course, those operations will be taxable accordingly. Another very good news is that the Panamanian government, due to the pandemic, has already filed an application to the legislative chamber of Panama, and the senators. In Panama, we call them diputados. I know that in the United States, they're called senators. They are reviewing it because the government is requesting them to issue a law or to pass a law where there will be some flexible terms of payment and discounts for companies which are micro companies, microempresarios.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So that's something that we're also waiting for.
Great. So we'll touch on taxes just a little bit because you've brought it up. So in Panama, is it true for expats? Because I get questions all the time from people buying investment properties that are renting their units out, and they want to know if they actually have to declare their rental income to the Panamanian government. And is it true that that rental income is tax-free up to a certain amount?
Well, that's a very good question, and it's a very popular question. The answer, strictly according to the law, is that it should be registered, okay, even if it's a private contract. However, most of the people do not register it. And the reason for that is not because they want to avoid taxes. The real reason is that just setting up all the paperwork and all the procedures to get that done, it's a little bit bureaucratic, and people just, they lose their patience on that. They want to fulfill a requirement for the Panamanian government, and it's full of bureaucratic steps. So what most of people do is that they rent their apartment through a private contract that is sealed by a public notary in Panama. And because taxable income comes from the statements that you do to the Panamanian government, if someone does not state that they have paid you an X amount of money in rent, the government is not able to know that you're receiving that money from the rent. And the government absolutely knows that that's how it's done, and no actual situation or problem has arisen from that. But strictly under the law, it should be done. But
Okay.
in the practice, it's not done. And it's not done not because people want to default or people don't want to pay their taxes. It's just that it is so bureaucratic that it's easier just to go to a notary and get the contract stamped.
Got it. Got it. So the taxation rate in Panama is approximately 20%, right?
It's around, right now, for corporations, it's 27% for corporations. For individuals, there's a different rate. It starts on 15%. The first $11,000 are tax-free.
Okay.
From there onwards, up to $50,000, 50, it's 15%.
Okay.
And there is a scale that I can easily send to you. It's not complicated at all.
Sounds great. So people from abroad coming here to Panama to rent their properties out and do a little real estate, that type of thing, shouldn't be stressing out about having to pay too much tax.
No, I wouldn't say that's something that would retain someone from investing in Panama.
Got it. Got it. Now, I also get asked a lot about getting a driver's license in Panama. So how hard is it for people to get a driver's license? Can they drive on their North American or their foreign driver's license, and for how long?
They can do so with their home country driver's license for 3 months only.
Okay.
But if they are becoming residents, the adequate suggestion would be that they get their own Panamanian residence driver's license. And it's a process that it's quite easy to fulfill. It's just that sometimes it's a little bit bureaucratic, and sometimes attention, the time that is spent at the government office in order to get the driver's license, takes a little more than 2 hours, 3 hours sometimes. So you have two choices: either request a Panamanian driver's license from zero, from scratch.
Yep.
For that, you will need lab tests indicating your blood type. You will need your residency card, your passport. You will have to go through hearing tests and theory and practice tests. You need to prove the Panamanian government that you know how to drive. Okay?
And that's in Spanish, right?
And that's in Spanish. And the other option is to homologate your driver's license from your home country. But most people don't want to go that way, because that process requires that you get your driver's license certified, apostilled with certain statements, and sometimes it's kind of difficult for them to do that from Panama, and they rather go through the process of getting a Panamanian driver's license from scratch.
So there's two options. You either get a Panamanian driver's license from scratch, but to do that, you do need to speak Spanish because you have to do the theory test. You get a blood test and you have to do a driver's test. Or you go through the process of getting your foreign driver's license transferred to being a Panamanian driver's license, but it's a little bit of paperwork. But that's something that you guys can look after, right?
Yes,
It's
of course.
it's not like our clients need to be waiting in line for hours at these
Absolutely, absolutely. We do all of that. We take care of our clients. Everything that we can do without the presence of the client is done by us as part of our services. And the idea is that the client normally waits for our call in our office, and then one of our drivers takes the client to the office where we will be standing by for their attention.
Okay, got it. And so for the driver's license, they do need to get certain documents from the embassy. So would you say getting the most, like contacting a Panamanian lawyer before coming to Panama to see what paperwork is required is easier than trying to request this documentation? I know with police checks and things like that are required for visas. Is it easier to do it from their country before coming to Panama? Would you suggest?
That would be the number one suggestion.
Okay.
To contact us so we can provide them with the information required, and then once they start getting the paperwork, we ask them to scan that information so we can pre-review it before it comes to Panama, especially because we need to make we need to be certain that the documentation and the paperwork has been stamped, legalized, or apostilled accordingly to the regulations of Panama. So we want to make sure that when the client gets into Panama, all paperwork has already been pre-reviewed.
Got it. I have to be honest with you, Yolani, when I moved to Panama 12 years ago, I tried to do it all myself. Okay. And my recommendation to everybody out there is to not try and reinvent the wheel, to leave it to professionals to do it for you. Because like you said before, the bureaucracy here, waiting in lines, things are different from where we're from. And it can take time. And with the difference in language and that type of thing, to hire a professional to do it is a great idea. I did my driver's license from scratch, and I have to say I didn't pass the first time, and it was really embarrassing. I did feel like I was 16 again back in Australia doing my driver's test. Also, I've probably spent about a year in total waiting in immigration lines trying to do it myself. So I think it's great a company like yours having the service of going and picking people up when it's actually their turn to be up next in immigration and that type of thing. That's a great service. So, and so just another question for you is, what type of individual do you see as being successful in moving to Panama?
Actually, anyone who gets the right advice and the right process is successful in getting residency in Panama. This is not rocket science, my friend. This is just standard procedures that need to be fulfilled. But you need to be accompanied by someone who understands and is used to do those procedures in a regular basis, because not everyone is an immigration attorney. Like the same way in which not everyone is a family attorney or a criminal court attorney, right? So you have people that have their own specialization. If you find someone, if you look for someone whose expertise is not immigration, you might get things done, but a little bit more in a more complicated way, and it would take you longer than if you go through experts that do this on a daily basis. So you should be successful on doing any type of paperwork or procedure here in Panama, because we have the rules, we know what to do, and we know how to do it. The problem comes when you do not know, or the person who's helping you does not have the expertise of doing this type of things on a regular basis. That's something that we have seen because we have been able to help expats that once started with someone else and things did not go right, but they didn't give up. They went through and tried to find someone that could do things in a faster way, and we have successfully finished what had been started.
That's right. Okay. So I think in summary, that we could easily say, to get immigration in Panama, it's possible, it's doable, but to be prepared to try and contact a lawyer before coming to Panama to get the paperwork that's required, and work with a professional like yourself so that you're not having to reinvent the wheel. Because I know here the culture is different. People do need to be patient. Coming from other countries, things are done differently than they're done here in Panama. So being patient and working with professionals is definitely going to make the process a lot smoother.
Absolutely. And it will consume less amount of your patience.
Yeah, that's right. So one of the biggest mistakes, I suppose, is not being prepared and trying to do it yourself, and possibly not being connected with the right people.
Correct. I mean, I'm telling you, this is not rocket science. Panama, it's a very investors-friendly country. The problem comes when you don't know what to do or how to do it, and sometimes you get lost in translation as well.
Yeah, that's right. Well, the Panamanian government are doing a lot. They're continually being innovative on new laws. I know that a lot of the properties here are tax-free. There's properties that are tax-free for 5 to 10 years. I hear also the government's about to pass a law where they're going to return that 20-year tax-free exemption policy. Have you heard any more about that, Yolani?
I do. I have heard, but many things are set. Now we are waiting for the government to issue the laws that actually allows people to take the advantages of that law. So at the moment, we're waiting for that, and we expect that to happen. It's just a matter of time. You know, so many things are happening with the pandemic, so many requirements, so many ways in which the government wants to help people and wants to start moving the economy. They have indicated, the government has indicated that they are very eager on getting investors, foreign investors in Panama, so they can start moving the economy as they did a couple of years ago. So it's just a matter of waiting. Things are set, they are on the table. Now they need to be passed on as laws.
Fantastic. Well, Yolani, it's been wonderful chatting with you today. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it a lot for all of us here at Boldly Panama. And yeah, thanks so much and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Liz, and I hope the information is useful. Please make sure that if you have any additional questions, get back to me, okay?
Thank you. All of us at Boldly Panama, thank you, Yolani.